Hey, it's Jay. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I repeat the assertion that Columbo is fairly fake-coded. He has a bizarre internal code that dictates his behavior, and he's so stubborn that he will not give up, even when he really should, because he has a certainty about his conviction that he can't rest until the killer has been brought to justice. Plus, he seems to be able to know when he's lied to, able to magically appear nearly anywhere, refuses to tell anyone his name, and of course the times when he uses powers. So Columbo is some kind of magic. And in this one, we're going to talk about all the times Columbo found himself coming up against magic. I'm being a little loose with the definition of magic here, but in every one of these, he goes up against a skilled craftsman of the art of subterfuge and manages to beat them at their own game, with a trick up his sleeve that seems almost magical in its execution. From least to most impressive trick, let's talk about Columbo versus magic. The Great Santini is a stage magician with a cozy job playing this dinner room. He's got a full run of the stage, making good money, gets to take a little brandy break during the show when he has to pretend to be tied up in a box underwater for 10 minutes while his daughter pads for time. There's only one problem, and that's that his boss figured out he was a Nazi and decides that he's over blackmailing this guy and is going to let the government know about it. So the Great Santini needs to stop him, and very conveniently has about 15 minutes where everyone assumes he's in a box on stage, when really he has disguised himself as a random server and sneaks upstairs in the chaos of the kitchen to kill the boss. He even gets himself a plausible alibi by using a little microphone to talk to his brandy delivery man, and playing a stupid little trick on him so that the waiter would never plausibly consider that the man was not in that room, but just out of sight for some reason.
If I'm wrong, you may come in and collect $5.
4. I don't know how you do it, Mr. Santini.
I guess you would have to be a magician to get away with this kind of behavior. If my superior at work pulled this shit on me, I'd immediately assume he needed some kind of elaborate alibi. The Great Santini murders the boss, and Columbo is here, and he's got a new raincoat for his birthday. He hates this goddamn raincoat.
Hey, man, I gotta take off this coat. I can't think in this coat.
Pardon me?
The coat. I can't think in the coat. Oh.
He goes through a lot of effort to try and lose this raincoat, but is consistently flummoxed by our guest star, the first recurring Columbo character, Sergeant Wilson, who helped him previously in the Season 2 episode, The Greenhouse Jungle. He's an anxious little dude who just wants to help out the lieutenant, and has a high respect for his skills. He goes out of his way to keep everyone in the restaurant because he knows Columbo is meticulous, and then Columbo lets them all go without questioning because he's way too concerned about why the body is where it is. This episode flourishes because it spends a lot of time just watching Columbo talk through his process with Wilson. Usually Columbo is flying solo, so most of this happens in his head, but as long as Wilson is standing there, he might as well say it out loud. And Wilson just stands there completely flummoxed by the whole thing, having no clue what Columbo is driving at, and just kind of repeating facts as he hears them. He does end up being useful in the end because he took a typing class, but he's mostly just standing there nodding. I like him. Bob Dishy is a good character actor. He was also the sergeant in the pilot of Mrs. Columbo, but that character was less charming. Columbo eventually figures out what happened and discovers that the lock of the office door was unpickable, according to this scientist. Scientifically cannot be picked, and yet it was. Only a master lockpick would have been able to get through that door, which gets Columbo laser focused on the only man in the restaurant who could have done that, the Great Santini. He just has to figure out how, because this guy was supposed to be in a metal box inside a tank of water at the time. So it's time to badger the shit out of him and be the worst audience member in the world. He bullies his way on stage, and then after being a real goober, challenges Santini to escape from these handcuffs he has? Everyone in this crowd has got to realize there's something going on here. A strange man has wandered on stage and is staring daggers into the magician. We gotta let him because he might have a gun. Thankfully, he sits down and then starts poking around backstage because, again, cop. It's time to drop the alibi. The whole kitchen full of people, the waiter not getting a tip because Santini is a cheapskate, seems pretty airtight even if he wasn't in that box. But we know Columbo, he figured it all out, mainly by visiting a magic shop and getting the daylight scared out of him by the guillotine trick. And by spending $17.35 on a basic-ass magic trick. They spend so much time explaining this trick to us, and frankly, not impressed.
I would tell you to look under the ashtray.
I knew you were thinking of number 1. I knew you were thinking of number 2. I knew you were thinking of number 3. I knew you were thinking of number...
$17.35 in them.
He also visits this old magician's assistant and has like a real human moment with him. Very congenial, asking about his setup at the old magician assistant's home. $40 a month, has to share the bathroom, but still not bad. This scene is apparently written and directed by Peter Falk as a thank you to the actor in this scene, and yeah, it's pretty sweet. Columbo still has nothing on Santini, so is going over the murder scene with Wilson one more time when Santini storms in to yell at him for unnerving the staff.
Tell Mr. Santini about the trick that I played on you today.
The lieutenant asked me to think of a number between 1 and 4.
Oh, God, they're explaining the magic trick again. Columbo reveals that with all his assumptions, he still doesn't have a motive, which leaves Santini feeling smug. Then we find out these new fancy typewriters record everything typed on them. Whoops, now Columbo knows you're a Nazi, time to go to jail. Now you can no longer try to control your daughter and bamboozle Robert Loggia or whatever you were doing in the character building bits that I rarely talk about because those are the parts where Columbo isn't on screen. Oh, also we learn that Columbo has the minor ability to detect Italians.
Does not look Italian. That's the very first note I made, sir.
So there's this Jordan Peterson motherfucker.
Words! Food, money, boss, wife, sex. Mommy and Daddy started setting you up right from the cradle, conditioning you.
And he's been secretly training his Dobermans to murder on command because his best friend and wife were sleeping together, and because he's obsessed with control, he needed to murder them both. He sent his wife flying off cliffs several months ago, and now it's time to exact his revenge against his friend by calling him on the phone from the doctors and having him loudly shout Rosebud a couple of times, because he's also obsessed with Citizen Kane for no discernible reason. Columbo is there for no reason. There's no reason to think this is a homicide, but he heard it happened at a mansion, and he wants to go see that mansion. There is so much cool film stuff in here. We have W.C. Field's original pool cue. How cool is that, huh? Obviously, he finds the whole thing very suspicious and spends the whole episode trying to figure out why these dogs suddenly attacked, as they seem very friendly. He spends a lot of time with these dogs. This movie is mostly either hanging out with these dogs or walking around this man's extravagant mansion. This one is kind of boring, actually. 2 whole minutes of this is watching Columbo silently walk around an abandoned Western set. And then there's all the weird psychosexual scenes between the doctor and Kim Cattrall acting barely legal as a student that is just living in this man's pool house for unclear reasons. Nothing happens, thank God, but it sucks. So he and Ed Begley Jr. eventually figure out the code word, and then we get a montage where he hangs out with this rad dog trainer lady before we get this really meandering reveal. Columbo hangs up the attack dummy he found in this man's kitchen. This is some horror slasher behavior right there. I think I saw Freddy Krueger do this once. He then invites the man into his own study so he can have him dramatically pull stuff out of the pool table pockets.
If you'll just look in that pocket there, sir. You'll just look in that pocket, sir.
What does this add, Columbo? I guess he paid $17.35 for that trick. He's going to use this technique whenever he can, get his money's worth. And then for his last magic trick, he tricks the doctor into sicking his murder dogs on Columbo, but it turns out he had spent the last 4 weeks reprogramming them. Frankly, foolish behavior. These dogs were slated to be destroyed over a month ago, dude. Columbo was not going to bring the dogs unless he could already guarantee they would not be used to murder him. But, you know, gotta get one more Citizen Kane reference in there, because it's a famous movie. I guess also because our central character in this case also found himself shambling around a big mansion, all of his connections gone because he couldn't stop driving people away, allowing his own ego to drive him into an insular stasis, rich, famous, and alone. Sure, themes, I get it, I just don't find it all that interesting. I much prefer talking about Columbo's W.C. Fields impression.
W.C. Fields. See if we can hit this in the corner pocket.
I think it's pretty good. Another one for the film dorks, as we are on the Universal Studio lot again for this one. The Jaws robot looks much better this time around, and our killer is Steven Spielberg. Okay, not literally Steven Spielberg, but one of his ilk, and he's played by Fisher Stevens. He has a real great energy here. And I'm glad to see that he was in Succession, and that he deeply regrets his involvements in Short Circuit 2. He still thinks it's a really good movie, though, which I'm not sure about. Alex is a famous young movie director who just kinda hangs out all day making movies, but he's also got a sweet man cave on set with soda machines and toy trains and bean bags and a fully stocked ice cream sundae station. This is a man who's been working long enough to have a paperback book about his films published, yet he never really grew up, bragging about his sexual exploits with his dude friends and getting petty revenge whenever he can. He's been hiding a secret for years. A stunt gone wrong led to a girl's death, and he covered up his involvement and left her to die. And her brother just found some footage on an old film reel in a friend's estate that implicates Alex pretty definitely. He's come to Hollywood to confront him with the film and how he's going to send it to every newspaper to destroy his career. Alex immediately claims it's all fake. This never happened. It was clearly amended together. It doesn't really make any sense, really. But he promises he's going to get some film experts to prove to Cyrus Bean that's not real. What he really does is order a spray down of the downtown set so he could terrify the shit out of this guy, so he runs face first into an electrified fence and dies. He then dumps the corpse on the side of the road, his tracks completely covered. Well, no, not quite, because a paperback about the director fell out of the corpse's pocket, which leads Columbo directly to him, so Columbo can start going through the man's stuff. It is extremely funny how impressed Columbo is with Fisher's man cave.
Go ahead and ask. Is it all right if I make myself an ice cream soda?
Of course, Lieutenant.
Thank you, sir.
Alex is bullshitting him from the start, pretending he has no idea why Columbo's here and distracts him with a bunch of doodads, pretending he might be interested in making a film about a cop. The feud between these two gets very strange, as Alex starts getting very frustrated with Columbo wandering around the studios and tries to murder him with Battlestar Galactica.
That was strange.
Then they had a long metaphorical conversation about light and shadow and how the camera presents what we want you to see, and he could disappear Columbo forever if he just stopped focusing on him, and it's kind of spooky. And then the movie just kind of keeps going. Molly Hagan breaks up with Alex because she discovered their meet-cute had been set up on purpose. Columbo shows up to his house with the two men who can verify the victim saw him that day, and so Alex hires a few actors to talk about the killer while Columbo's having lunch to send the lieutenant on a goose chase. He thinks he's shaking off the old dog when he takes the secretary to lunch to fire her, only for her to lean on him about how he did the murder to keep her job. Then Columbo is back because he found the film reel. His friend made a second copy, and now Columbo knows the motive and is pretty sure he offered his secretary a bribe, implicating him. Alex doesn't believe it, because that was a private conversation, so he can deny everything. That's when Columbo reveals that he's been playing him the whole time, the luncheon was a setup, the servers were actually cops, and also Molly Hagan helped because she hates his fucking guts. In terms of theatrics, I think Columbo went a little overboard with his reveal here, but I suppose he had to flex a little, create his own reality the same way Alex did. Impressive, if a bit extremely unethical. It's Robert Culp time, baby! This time he is some kind of behavioral consultant. He invents subliminal messages or something, and he's bopping around his office clearly up to something. He's dicking around with the camera equipment. He's calling up some lady and pretending he's the husband of her husband's lover. He's force-feeding this jerk expensive caviar while he threatens to go to the DA. Not entirely sure what this guy is even talking about.
How many of your other clients have you framed with Tanya?
Columbo never interviews Tanya or even figures out why this guy was murdered. He just knows Mr. Norris threatened Bob, so he had to die. And what a murder it is, as Bob starts an extremely boring advertising film that he has spliced in images of a cool, refreshing beverage, so Mr. Norris, already parched from the caviar, gets up to get a drink of water. Then Bob, who has left a recording of him reading the film so everyone thinks he's on stage, pops out of his office and shoots him, then returns his gun and hides something in his lamp. Extremely smooth. Clinical. They find the body after the film is over, and this causes a wild Columbo to appear, scrounging around the unattended party platters. He's got to get a taste of this caviar, 3 big helping spoonfuls of the stuff. It's always funny when Columbo eats, he's like a raccoon at times. He's noticed a weird inconsistency with the recording, and everything just feels too tidy. The camera pointed at the hallway just happened to be off. The film was immediately sent back to the archives. The man's wife just happened to not have a verifiable alibi. Somehow the murderer struck at the moment when everyone was occupied. It's too clean. Plus, Bob is slippery as fuck. Columbo doesn't like it, and he's got a laundry list of speculation and stuff to tell Bob about. Track him down at the grocery store, spying on all the shoppers for, I assume, advertising reasons. Columbo really has nothing on this guy. He covers his tracks so well. There's just one problem, and that is the part-time camera operator had a humanizing chat with Columbo and figured out that Bob did a murder and needs like $10,000, just enough to start the real estate business, and then he's mum. You really feel sorry for this guy, but he didn't know the rule, and that is never try to blackmail someone in Columbo. It 95% of the time goes completely bad for you. The only person who got away with it without being murdered or arrested was Karen Fielding, the secretary of this closeted wine enthusiast who decided it was better to confess rather than be in a heterosexual relationship. So yeah, camera guy is dead, nobody can place Bob at this movie theater, and his patsy suspect just so happened to know the camera guy and has no alibi. Columbo is stumped. This guy is too good. It's like he has mind control powers or something. People just do whatever he wants them to for his own perverse reasons. His persuasive acumen is so powerful that only Columbo seems fully immune from it, able to see right into his soul and know he's pulling all the strings. He needs to regroup, try something else, something that bends the principle of the law, if you would.
But this is searching without a warrant.
I'm not searching. I'm looking.
Columbo, sir, you cannot do this legally. You're hiding in this man's office to ambush him. This is officially a fishing expedition. Might as well get out the waders. But the trap is set, and Columbo got a bite. Bob is watching a film when he suddenly jumps up and heads into the office, fishing out the device he hid in the lamp before. It's a calibration converter, it allows a different bullet to be fired from the pistol he used, so the murder weapon was well hidden. Columbo never would have figured that out. It's brilliant, really. And Bob is standing there just completely fucking confused. What just happened? Why did he just do that? And then he realizes the film he was watching was spliced with images of Columbo searching the room, and Bob has a full mental breakdown. He's so impressed. Columbo used a subliminal cut to trick Bob into checking that his secret was safe, and frankly, yeah, it is unbelievable that this worked. Like, I know that there are studies and such about the impact, and it was luckily outlawed before it could do any actual harm if that what they say is true, but I'm sorry, I don't believe subliminal messaging is real. This would just not work. It makes more sense if Columbo really is a Fae creature, and this was him using his Fae powers, because it makes more sense. It's like my John Wick argument. My disbelief suspends better if I assume all the assassins are White Wolf-style vampires. They have clans and everything. But yeah, Bob just emotionally collapses like a shonen villain who was just bamboozled by his own trick, and we accidentally zoom in on a slide that Bob is chuckling at. Fantastic episode, really. Robert Culp delivers every time. It is 1988, and Columbo has been off the air for a decade. Not for any real reason, contract negotiations just petered out, and the showrunners managed to pitch a new murder mystery movie block to NBC, which saw the return of Columbo to the airwaves. How will Columbo have changed in his absence? Television has already changed so much. TV is a lot darker now, literally and metaphorically. How does Columbo respond to the winds of time? And the answer Columbo goes to the guillotine gives us is he doesn't. He's older, slower, but he's still the same shabby little guy, wearing the same damn trench coat he has had for at least 20 years, his hair still unruly. The world may change, but Columbo is ageless. He's still the same guy he's always been. And he's back to feud with this fake psychic, who is trying to prove his clairvoyant abilities to the government so they will hire him for their secret program. He has his whole institute doing research, and it's all a bunch of hogwash. He is an ex-magician, that's right. Columbo has taken down 2 magicians. The government wants better proof, so they've hired an outside consultant, an Erzas James Randi, a professional magician famous for disproving countless psychic claims. It looks bad for Elliot Blake, but it turns out that they knew each other from their days in an African prison, and James Randi feels honor-bound to rig the psychic test, but Elliot kills him anyway, gruesomely, with a trick guillotine. He locks the door behind him and the body isn't discovered until the guy from Sewer Shark, Robert Costanzo, calls Columbo up to report the blood dripping from his ceiling. It's a grim scene. This little magician man is so sad that he begs Columbo to drink with him and swap magic stories. Then Columbo heads to the Institute where they're scaring the shit out of a plant. And Columbo zeroes in on his target, sizing him up quickly. Then he dicks around a magic store and gets a sales pitch from the most 12-year-old boy in the world.
I do birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, whatever you need.
And comes to the conclusion that this was not a suicide. Columbo goes to the magician's funeral, which is about as weird as you assume it would be.
In his brief, illuminating journey, he unlocked all the arcane secrets of those who came before.
He invites the psychic to the murder scene to do a reading, so we can watch him spend 3 minutes wandering around the attic while Columbo follows him around.
Are you sensing something?
Please, Lieutenant.
Sorry.
The psychic then gets bodied constantly by Columbo shooting down his theories about Randy's feeling at the time of his death, but still doesn't have anything definitive besides his hunch. He needs to figure out what the trick is. Elliot Blake got his contract with the government and is about to be swept away into a new identity when Columbo rushes the plane. He has a surprise in store. He figured out how to rig the psychic test and performs it himself, exposing Elliot as a fraud and destroying his contract. Despondent, he finds Columbo again at the murder scene. He wants to try out that guillotine trick. Just crawls into the guillotine and asks Elliot to strap him in. This is definitive proof that Columbo must have some kind of compulsive ability, because our psychic decides that it's time to just kill Columbo, straps him in the deadly way, and lets loose. And Columbo rises up because you can't kill an immortal Fey detective, and because he swapped the labels on the headboard under the assumption that this murderer would fall for his very obvious trap. But this one is a real banger. It really stretches his legs in some fun ways, responding to the grim new look of television and schlock with some humor and strangeness. And of course, Peter Falk has still fucking got it. The ending feels a little bit over the top. No one who is not a wizard would ever do this, but it's good to see this little laundry hamper man take down another rich asshole. Speaking of, I'm done talking about these episodes. All of these episodes are good. If you actually want to watch Columbo, I suggest the Magician episodes as a doubleheader for Columbo night, but any of them will be good. That's the thing about Columbo, it's mostly good ones. The full 80% of them are C or better. Someday I'll tell you about the bad ones. But not today. I've got more stuff to work on. So many videos in progress. Stay tuned, subscribe, give me money on Patreon so I can justify this use of my time better. If you can, if you want. I'm gonna go. Keep the spirit of Columbo in your hearts, dedicated to the truth and holding rich assholes accountable. Peace.